What is up, guys? It's me, Riz Vortex, back with another video. Today we're going to be reacting to some scary stories animated by Llama Arts. We're going to be reacting to this one right here. A creepy ghost haunting story animated.
This happened about 5 years ago when I was 21. Me and my friend Seth got into this app which showed you ghosts. We'd go out ghost hunting, but nothing much would happen. Sometimes a dot would appear on one of our phones and it would say random words. We would ask, "How did you die?" and stuff like that. And sometimes the answers lined up, but it was mostly random. One night, around 2 a.m., Seth suggested going to the cemetery to see if the app picked anything up. I was hesitant, but I nervously agreed. We started making our way through the neighborhood towards the cemetery. It was weird as the streets are normally lined with cars, but they were empty on this night. We walked down the middle of the road with the app running, but it wasn't picking anything up. We finally made it to the cemetery, which was a small, family-owned one where they only buried their own. Seth went up to the gate and started shouting, hoping to get a response on the app, but nothing happened. I was standing in the road, feeling unsettled, when Seth starts yelling,
"Is that all you've got?"
I told him to stop disrespecting the dead and we should leave. He tried being funny, saying,
"Oh, I'll make them show up."
and jumped the gate and started stomping on the graves while screaming.
Come on, show us something.
All of a sudden, our phones said something at the same time. I looked down at my phone and it was there.
Afraid.
We both just stood there, looking at each other when 10 or so red dots appeared on the radar,
10?
and it said it again. When I looked back up from my phone, Seth was next to me. I said,
We have got to go.
as soon as I said that, we could hear the street lights turning off one by one from the top of the street, getting
That's
closer
scary.
to us. We took off running as fast as we could. We got about halfway into the neighborhood before running out of breath and having to stop. I felt like I was gonna throw up from being scared and winded. Then I heard my phone say something. It was muffled, but I knew what it said. Being too scared to look at my phone, I looked at Seth, who looked terrified. He nodded at me to get my phone out, so I slowly pulled it out and it said my name across the top. I turned my phone off and said,
Screw this. I'm done.
We made our way back to my house and had a cigarette to calm down. We were talking about what just happened, almost not believing it, when I heard my phone again. This time it was my sister's name. We just stood there, frozen, not saying a word, when it went off again and said my brother's name. I took my phone out, turned it on, and deleted the app. I asked Seth to stay the night, but he refused. I can't blame him. When I finally got to sleep that night, I dreamt a muffled voice repeating a word over and over. I started to wake up and the words became clearer. My phone was off, with the battery out. But when I turned it over, it was lit up with the app running. It had a red dot about 6 feet from me, still repeating.
Afraid. That's sketch. Oh my god. Oh my god. What is that? What is that?
I woke up the next morning and went to the bathroom. I had a razor-thin cut from my left shoulder to my right
What
hip.
the-
I don't know what happened that night, and nothing has happened to me since. Needless to say, I don't mess with that kind of stuff anymore.
Okay, that was pretty good. That was a really good one. Alright, the next one is called A Creepy Christmas Time Story. So yeah, it's all by Llama Arts. Go subscribe.
It was November of 2006. I was a 16-year-old kid living in the town of Altoona, Iowa.
2006.
I went to bed early one night because I had to work the early shift at McDonald's. As I slept, I had a dream that I was running through downtown Des Moines, but I wasn't on a jog. I was running from something.
Dang.
As I ran around the corner of a building, I came face to face with my pursuer. A tall man wearing a trench coat and a top hat stood in front of me. The only thing visible of his face was his eyes. They were abnormally large with black pupils, and it looked at me as if it wanted something.
Oh, I just got the
After what
chills.
felt like hours, he reached out his bony hand, as if he wanted me to go with him. I woke up violently from my dream, and after catching my breath, I peered around my room to see if I was safe. As I stood up from my bed, I noticed that I could see my breath. Feeling confused, I checked my window. It was latched shut. I then walked over and checked my vent. I could still feel warm air coming from it. As I sat back down on my bed, I tried to figure out what exactly was going on. That's when the figure from my dream appeared at the foot of my bed.
Oh my god.
I scrambled back to my headboard.
What do you want?
I asked, trying to hide the shakiness in my voice. With the same bony finger, it pointed at me. Growing up in a religious home, I believed what I was looking at was a demon. I told the creature to leave. It just waved its finger at me, and
Says
with a low
no.
voice,
Oh my god.
it spoke to me.
Never leave. Always here.
The creature then screamed loudly and disappeared. A feeling of nausea came over me, and I vomited on my floor. The last thing I remember was cleaning myself up and waking up to my alarm. It's been about a month since I had seen the top hat wearing man in my bedroom. The Christmas season was in full effect. My parents weren't home because they got invited to some kind of event, so it was only me and my 3 sisters at home.
That's sketch.
I had to wake up early in the morning for work, so I decided to go to sleep. I rested my head on my pillow and closed my eyes. Not even 30 seconds passed until my sisters burst into my room and started singing obnoxious songs. This of course made me very angry, but I thought if I ignored them that they would leave me alone. This was not the case. As I pulled the blankets over my head, I started to feel the same cold feeling that I had in November.
Damn.
As the obnoxious singing subsided, I lowered the blanket below my eyes and saw the man standing in the corner of my room.
Oh my god.
In one swift motion, he charged towards me,
Oh
and
my
I blacked
god.
out. When I finally came to, I found that my sisters had locked themselves inside the bathroom. As I knocked on the door, they told me to go away. I asked them what happened, and all they could say was Mom and Dad were on their way home. I looked down and saw that my hand was slightly bloody. Holes were in the bathroom door, and a broom was sticking out of the wall.
The heck?
I then walked into the living room and found that there were knives stuck into the wall as well. The same wave of nausea passed over me, just like in November, and I threw up again. As I was cleaning up, my parents walked through the door. My father immediately walked over to me and gave me a good beating. Then he sent me to my room. I went to bed crying, not from the beating. I was crying because of the confusion. I had no idea what was going on. The next morning, my sisters reluctantly sat next to me and told me what had happened. They said I got angry and chased them down and tried to hurt them. They said my eyes were red to the point where they thought I was bleeding from them. They said I sounded like a different person. In 2011, that was the last time I saw the top hat wearing man. I just moved into a new apartment, and after a long, stressful day of unpacking, I took a shower and got ready for bed. As I started to drift off, I could feel that cold feeling again. I lifted my head
I got the
and saw
chills
the
again.
man standing in front of me. The
heck?
man's eyes were red now. With a low voice, just like on that November night, it looked at me and said,
Never leave. Always here.
Dang. That was a good story. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Later, Vortex 3 is out. Bye.